pleasure to be here this morning, and thank you for all you're already doing. Remarkable the efforts for the Host Town program. And first and foremost, we want to make sure that we get that supported and the funds raised. It will be a remarkable event for all of you. It's 3 days for the athletes to get acclimated to the time period. Many of them have been traveling from very far away. They arrive at LAX, they get registered at Loyola Marymount, they get on buses to go to their host towns, and there'll be about 75 or 80 host towns from San Diego to San Luis Obispo where the delegations will be hosted. 3 days to get acclimated to the time period, put on pep rallies, participate in cultural events. For most, it'll be the first time they've ever stepped foot in the United States of America. So what an incredible opportunity to show our hospitality and really prepare them for what will be the time of their lives. As was mentioned, this is the largest event LA's hosted since the 1984 Olympics. We believe very firmly that it will be the most inspirational event of all time. I want to start by sharing with you a quick video. Go. That was pretty fun, huh? Steven Spielberg, not to name drop, but Steven Spielberg was one of the first supporters that we had for these games, and when we showed him that video, he accused me of using Olympic opening ceremony footage, but it wasn't. It was Special Olympic opening ceremony footage. So these games are going to be remarkable sporting event, but it's a mission-driven event, as you can well imagine. That mission is found in our logo, which I love these logos, by the way, on the giving tree. Thank you. That logo starts with the celebratory pose. Can you all strike that pose? See, doesn't that feel great? International symbol of celebration, of praise. For our athletes, it represents the courage, the determination, and the joy of our athletes. You often see our athletes crossing the finish line, striking the pose, or getting a medal and striking the pose. That was on display at our invitational games at USC earlier this summer, where we had 12 countries that attended. It was kind of a test game for us. Throughout the games, you'd see people striking the pose, the athletes striking the pose, which is just their courage, determination, and joy. It's a symbol that even people who are born blind naturally strike the pose when they're excited. It's something that we do. These pictures were taken by Corey Hansen, who is a photographer who had never volunteered for Special Olympics before. He shoots for Paul McCartney, Justin Timberlake, and he heard about it and he volunteered and came out to take pictures. And I happened to be with him while all of a sudden he was taking pictures of corporate sponsors and stuff like that. All of a sudden he turned and started taking pictures of the athletes. And I'll never forget the moment that he took that one picture and he turned to me and goes, "Did you see that?" So this is a young fan favorite from Costa Rica. And his enthusiasm is infectious, but I'm not sure it's any better than the enthusiasm of who's finishing second. Remarkable, the courage, determination, and joy of our athletes. We tell people that we guarantee you two things if you come out and volunteer, be fans in the stands, which I'll tell you more about in a minute, but that your hands will be red from clapping and your jaw will hurt from smiling the entire time that you're at Special Olympics. This young athlete, Michael, happens to be a family friend. And when Corey captured this photo, the next day, his mom, by the way, helps coach his team. And the next day I had my smartphone and I I went up to her and I said, hey, I want to show you some pictures. And I was going to surprise her with the picture of Michael. And so I showed her some of these pictures first, and coming up to, show her the picture of Michael. And when I hit the picture of Michael, she started to cry. And she said, you got him smiling? We don't have any family pictures of Michael smiling. Every picture, he's like got his head down or hiding behind somebody. And that's the opportunity that Special Olympics provides him, to be the very best that he can be and experience that courage, determination, and joy. That celebratory figure is inside the circle of acceptance and inclusion, which is our mission, creating awareness that leads to acceptance and inclusion of people with intellectual disabilities. We believe, ultimately, the acceptance and inclusion of all people of differences. It's just natural as you accept our athletes for who they are. The word tolerance is really what a lousy word that is, right? To tolerate someone. It's really about accepting them for who they are and then including them in your life. And for Special Olympics, it's including them as friends in school. It's including them by hiring them in your workplace. But the end result is acceptance and inclusion of all people of differences, we believe. And then the multicolors represent the diversity of 177 countries coming to this diverse market. You saw pictures of Shanghai. Wasn't the case in Shanghai. Here, as those 177 countries come, they are perfectly mirrored by the diversity of our communities, and we have that opportunity to share that mission of acceptance and inclusion with every diverse corner of our communities. The issue at hand is there's estimated to be 200 million people around the world with intellectual disabilities, often the most marginalized, mistreated, misunderstood in all communities. In fact, if you're in school age, you're 2.5 times more likely to be bullied if you have intellectual disabilities. You probably know the story. Eunice Kennedy Shriver had the vision that she could help change the lives of people with intellectual disabilities. She was the sister of President John F. Kennedy, the wife of Sergeant Shriver, who founded the Peace Corps. They believe in doing things in a very big way. And so she had a sister, Rosemary, who had intellectual disabilities, and they included her in things that they did. And so they created Camp Shriver in their backyard. It was a very big backyard, but they invited friends and people with intellectual disabilities from the community, and they came and they ran and they swam and they jumped, and that was the genesis of Special Olympics. It's resulted in year-round sports training and competition. A lot of people still think it's one time a year. It's track and field. It's 32 different sports over summer and winter, and it's year-round training, and that's where the athletes have that transformative experience, where they gain that self-confidence and that courage. If you're a Special Olympic athlete, you're twice as likely to live on your own and twice as likely to have a job because of that courage and that self-confidence and self-discipline that you gain. And that little vision of Mrs. Shriver, that little tiny vision in her backyard, has resulted today in 4.4 million athletes competing in 177 countries around the world. In fact, in this past year, they competed in 80,000 events around the world under the banner of Special Olympics. The signature events become the World Games. It's patterned after the Olympics. It happens every 2 years, alternating between summer and winter. It's during the off years of when the Olympics are. Mostly, it started in 1968 in Soldier Field in Chicago, the U.S. and Canada. And since that time, most of them have been in the United States. 1987, South Bend, Indiana, hosted by Notre Dame. And then the last time was in 1999 in Raleigh-Durham, hosted by Duke in North Carolina. And then it was 2003, some of the images that you saw in the video, in Dublin, Ireland, where Nelson Mandela and Bono and U2 and Bill Clinton and Muhammad Ali all came out in support of those games. In fact, Bernie Ahern, president of Ireland, they produced a documentary that he hosted called Transforming Ireland. And you know what he said was the most transforming moment for his country? Was Hostown. He says, as incredible as the events were, and watching the athletes compete, it was the grassroots effort of those athletes being in community with people throughout his country that to this day, as you go through Ireland, you see a town sign that says proud host of the 2003 Team France Special Olympics World Games. Remarkable impact that he felt it had on his country. 4 years later, the World Summer Games was held in Shanghai, China, where President Hu Jintao went from host town to host town, talking about the importance of people with intellectual disabilities. Remarkable impact on his country. Today, there's 1 million athletes competing in China alone. China and India are the two fastest growing countries in the world for the movement. And then 4 years later, when we were bidding for the games, it was in 2011, it was in Athens, Greece. Economic turmoil, rioting in the streets. Organizers had to negotiate with the unions for Coca-Cola to be able to deliver drinks to the event. There was threats of turning off the electricity for opening ceremony, but it all went off without a hitch, and they did an incredible job. An incredible transformative moment was in the Parliament. It's a picture in the Parliament. Tim Shriver, who's the chairman of Special Olympics International, two of our athletes presented the Prime Minister and the President of Greece with a resolution calling for sports to be incorporated into special education. To this day, people with intellectual disabilities are relegated to facilities and don't participate in sports. And Tim gave this incredible speech about this transformative moment and this incredible opportunity for the country of Greece. And it was at that moment, we hadn't won the bid yet, but I decided at that moment this is what I was going to commit to do for a couple of years. Just an amazing, amazing moment. And then we won the bid, and we had a big celebration at Staples Center with a parade of athletes, of Olympic athletes and Special Olympic athletes. There's a great bond between the two, and we launched our campaign. The theme of our bid and the mission of our games is in a city full of movie stars and all-stars. The athletes will be the stars of this show. That there's no greater global stage than Los Angeles to create the awareness that leads to acceptance and inclusion as we engage the education community, engage the sports community, engage the tech community, the corporate community. There's no greater global stage for us to create that awareness. In fact, when the selection committee came out, the International Selection Committee, during the bid process, we hosted them for a week, and we presented to them our plans, our vision, our venues. We went to UCLA and we toured the facilities we're going to use there, and then Chancellor Block there and his wife Carol hosted at their house following that. Then we went to Mayor Villaraigosa's home and community leaders there. And then the next day we go to USC and President Nikias. We tour the campus there. That's where the two athlete villages are going to be, just like the Olympics in '84, where the athletes and coaches are going to be staying. And President Nikias hosted a lunch in Town and Gown, and it was he invited Peter Uberoff, who I sat down with for 3 hours when I first started this to just pick his brain, and then Pat Hayden and all these people at this lunch. And President Nikias, if you ever heard him speak, he's from Greece and has a strong Greek accent, and he had this presidential podium at the head of the table, and he gets up at the end of lunch and he opens up his presidential notebook and he proceeds to give a speech on Prometheus, the god of fire, and the Olympic flame. And it was remarkable. And as incredible as that was, though, it was really that night that I believe we won the bid. Is because it was that night that we took him to a Laker game. I mean, actually, it was a lot more impressive 3 years ago than it would be today. But it was impressive. AEG was one of our early supporters, and AEG gave us one of their party suites in Staples Center. And my background in sports television, we were the home of the Lakers for many years, and so I invited James Worthy and people to come and greet them and try to impress them. And the week before, I called Jeannie Buss. This was March before the games in Greece that summer, and I called Jeannie Buss and I said, Jeannie, the International Selection Committee is coming out, and they're the owner of the Lakers, if you don't know. But I said, the Selection Committee is coming, and we're hosting them in the AEG party suite. And I said, would you do me a favor? I told her what the theme of our bid was. I said, would you honor the 7 athletes that are going to represent Team USA from Southern California in Greece that summer? Would you honor them at midcourt during the game as a surprise to the Selection Committee? She said, done. She doesn't do it before the game. She doesn't do it at halftime. She does it between the first and second quarter where everyone is still in their seats. So there's a party going in the suite, and I get everybody's attention and have them sit down at the end of the first quarter. And up on the Jumbotron comes the Special Olympics logo. And everybody in the suite starts cheering, thinking that's why I got their attention. I was able to get the logo on the Jumbotron. And then the 7 athletes marched out to midcourt. And the announcer says, the Lakers have long been supporters of Special Olympics. Tonight, we want to introduce you to 7 very special athletes who are going to represent us on the world stage. And one at a time, they were each introduced. And I don't know if you can see it, but on the ring around the arena was their names, all the way around the ring. So they're the stars of the show. In a city full of movie stars and all-stars, they became the stars of the show. And each one introduced, and each time 18,000 fans showered them with their praise and their encouragement. And it was at that moment that I believe that we won the bid. No greater global stage than LA to create the awareness that leads to acceptance and inclusion. Along those lines as well, unprecedented, we were able to get a deal done with ESPN as the official broadcaster of the World Games. Simply, we went to every network and we said, look, we're looking for a partner that will get these incredible stories in front of as many eyeballs as possible. Believing that the greatest thing that we can do for people with intellectual disabilities is to change the hearts and minds of people without intellectual disabilities. That they befriend them, that they hire them, that they incorporate them in their life. And so getting those stories out was critical, and amazing the story that came together. I won't go into it now, but with ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. Incredible commitment. That's John Skipper with our athletes as part of the announcement for that unprecedented event. They made an incredible commitment. The opening ceremonies, which will be at the Coliseum, will be a 3-hour special televised around the world, live throughout the United States and delayed into the right time periods in countries around the world. They're going to do a half-hour special every night of the games on ESPN, covering the games in a highlight show. Right now, they assigned Bill Bonnell, who's one of their top producers. He's traveling the world doing 30 features on 30 athletes from around the world that'll start airing on SportsCenter in April as a Road to the World Games effort. But incredible commitment. In addition to that, we've got promotional media partners who are providing us all kinds of media inventory and promotional opportunities. You may have seen our billboards already, our bus stops, our radio ads, our TV ads. All of that has a great impact. My wife got a flat tire last week, and I know that's very sad, but my wife got a flat tire, and young guy pulls up in his truck from AAA and goes to get the spare out and sees a tote bag, a Special Olympics World Games tote bag, and says, "Are you part of that event?" And she said, "Well, my husband's one of the organizers," and he said, "I just heard the radio spot in my truck, and I wrote down the website. It's LA2015.org, and I was going to go tonight and volunteer." And so all that's starting to happen. It's really encouraging that this is really taking, but it's because the media, all of that, we got $4 million worth of inventory running in the market just in November and December. That's 328 million impressions, all donated by the media. So everybody is coming alongside to help us do that. In addition to that, Kaiser Permanente is one of our official partners. They have donated their float, their Rose Parade float, to us this year, and that's the design of the float. Rayford Johnson and two of the athletes, there'll be Rayford Johnson and 14 athletes on the float. It will be an incredible opportunity. The theme of the Rose Parade is inspiring stories. That fits, right? It's inspiring stories, and they divided it up into chapters of a book. And they put us as the first float of the 4th chapter, and the 4th chapter is entitled Perseverance and Hope. So people around the world will see that and hear that message of acceptance and inclusion. So incredible. The specifics on our games, as we mentioned, 7,000 athletes, 3,000 coaches. We're responsible for those 10,000 athletes for 12 days that they're here. All medical, all housing, all food, all transportation, all entertainment. They're in our hands. You can imagine the incredible medical operations that we're having to put together. We have 30 different operational plans that are all 50 pages long or more. This is very entrepreneurial. It started with 2 of us that started working on the bid with some help with Deloitte and some corporate sponsors, and then now we're 145 of us, about 30 of that as volunteers and full-time people donated to us, seconded as they call it in the Olympic world, to help us. But we grow to be about 200 employees and then 200 part-time employees for the World Games. The 84 games had 1,200 employees. So we're doing this very efficiently, and the only way that we're able to do this is because great corporate partners and people have come alongside of us to increase what we're capable of doing. 25 sports over 9 days. Athlete villages at USC and UCLA, as I mentioned, as festivals as well. 6,500 beds at USC, 3,500 beds at UCLA. 30,000 volunteers we're recruiting. About 10,000 of those volunteers will have specific jobs in the games. The rest will be fans in the stands. We don't charge tickets for the events, except for opening ceremony will be a benefit evening for the World Games, but the rest of all the sports are free, and fans in the stands is one of the greatest things you can do as a company. Get your team together, get your employees. It's great team building, it's great team retention. It guarantee you show up for Special Olympics the first day saying, "I'm here to cheer the fans," or "I'm here to volunteer." By the end of the day, you're like, okay, who's helping who here? The perspective that I just received of overcoming adversity with such joy, what in my life am I not making the most out of? What employer wouldn't want an employee to come back with that kind of impact? And then opening ceremonies, I mentioned at the Coliseum. It'll be a 3-hour extravaganza. I can just tell you that it'll be It'll be billed as the largest premiere in the history of Hollywood. It has a red carpet running all the way the length of the field in the Coliseum, and the athletes and the coaches will walk down the red carpet as the stars of the show. I can't tell you all the other great things, but it's going to be an incredible evening of celebrating courage, determination, joy, acceptance, and inclusion. In Greece, so this was in China with Yao Ming marching with the Chinese athletes. It's an incredible moment in Greece as they entered the arena from Syria and Iran and Iraq and China and United Kingdom and everyone around the world. It's remarkable how it cuts through what's going on in the world right now, and there's a lot going on in the world right now. So amazing and just contagious what that evening is going to be, and of course the lighting of the cauldron and the torch run is going to be the final crescendo. In addition, it's healthy athletes. Special Olympics is the largest provider of health services for people with intellectual disabilities in the world. That comes through Special Olympics. They're all afforded an opportunity to get a 7-point checkup: eyes, ears, teeth, feet, general health. If they need glasses, lenses are ground right then and there. Imagine many of them have never had their eyes corrected before. Imagine the first time they put on a pair of glasses. So it's an incredible opportunity. The legacy part of that is we get doctors, dentists, nurses, med students, all coming out, volunteering, learning to work with people with intellectual disabilities, then willing to go back to their practices or start their careers, opening their doors to their community, their entire community. And then there's the unified relay across America. That'll be a torch run across America from Miami. It starts in Miami, Washington, D.C., and Boston. Touch every single state as it comes across. It'll come together here into one flame, and then 12 days throughout the entire state of California. Touching as many host towns as possible, iconic moments as the torch run, which is put on by law enforcement. Incredible relationship with law enforcement. Law enforcement this last year raised $50 million for Special Olympics around the world with plane pulls and tip-a-tops and torch run activities. Remarkable. So they're the keepers of the flame of hope, is what we call them, and so they'll deliver that flame to the Coliseum. So that's just a quick general overview. I want to give you the first priority is raising money for the host town and getting that paid for. It'll be incredible. We have a lot of money that we have to raise for the World Games, so above and beyond the host town, if you're interested in opportunities for your company to support, we have all kinds of rights and benefits and fun things that come along with it. Employee engagement, customized volunteer opportunities, all of that. And to just give you a quick look at who some of the sponsors are, because I told them all I would do this. But no, to give you a quick look at who the sponsors are, our official partners are Coca-Cola, Mattel, Deloitte, Toyota, Bank of America, and Kaiser Permanente. That's our highest big category of category exclusive partners. And we hope to have 10 of those when all is said and done. Same thing with each of these two categories: Microsoft, Toys R Us, and Davis Ellen Advertising. To give you an idea, that's a total cash and in-kind commitment of $2.5 million, and $1 million is our suppliers, and that's Google and UPS so far. So we're trying to fill out those categories. We have our founding champions, which, by the way, those games I showed you, Shanghai, Athens, and Dublin, all majorly supported by the government. In Shanghai, 85% of their total budget was paid for by the government. I mean, that's not our case. We're almost all privately funded. We'll have about 6, 7, 8% provided by government, and most of it will be in-kind support. And so we had leaders who stepped up with an initial $1 million commitment for us to be able to fund this. Our goal is to have 15. We have 11 right now. 15 for 2015 is our goal. And then we have our other champions categories from $25,000 up to $500,000. All of those are listings with the group and rights and benefits that come along with that. But all of those people have signed on to do that so far. And then we have foundations that are supporting this. Every typical foundation, the leaders of foundations in the region have stepped up with anything from $25,000 up to $300,000. And so we continue to submit grants and raise as much money as we can. I want to end with another quick video, and to set that up, this is a shot of us in South Korea, which was the last World Games. It was the World Winter Games held in January of 2013, we took a delegation to South Korea as the next host. We received the flag at closing ceremony from the leaders there in South Korea as the next host of the World Games. And Dustin and Debbie are alongside me there. They're two of our global ambassadors. They're on our board of directors, actually. And by the way, we're a separate 501c3 from Special Olympics International. We're charged with raising money, organizing, and putting on the games, much like an organizing committee would do for the London Olympics, and then you have the IOC. There's the SOI, and then there's us. We have our own board of directors and our own staff. And so when we accepted this flag, we unveiled our logo for the very first time and told the entire arena of athletes from around the world that that logo represents their courage, their determination, their joy. And then we played them this video that I'm going to share with you. And simply, our ad agency simply went out in the community, all walks of life. You'll see a nod to law enforcement and such in here. But this is the exact video that we played. And they simply said to them, this is about courage, determination, and joy. The world is coming. If you're excited and you want to celebrate that, would you strike the pose? You know, and so you'll see people of all walks doing that. And that's all the information they had, and you'll see the sincerity and how enthusiastic they are about welcoming the athlete. I put this together to show the athletes that Los Angeles and the region are so excited to welcome you to the World Games.
Okay, so hold them up. First of all, my apologies to you Ducks and Angel fans. So hold them up. And thank you for all that you're doing. I hereby deputize you as ambassadors of the World Games. Go and tell everyone. Thank you so much.